Okay, so if you want to add elastic to a garment so it looks more like a casing, like elastic within a casing, or you want to do one of these like multi-needle elastic waistbands here, one thing that is kind of a helpful trick is to create a new piece, like a rectangle piece, that is estimating or simulating what elastic would look like. So if your elastic is 1 inch wide, you'd create a piece that's 1 inch wide, and you'd want the circumference of that, like if we're doing a waistband on this dress in a casing, to be the relaxed length of the elastic to be the length of the piece that you'd like to fit nicely on the garment. So I've prepared my piece such that the hem of my bodice and the waistline of my skirt are enlarged to make for gathering, obviously. And I want to check my avatar's measurements to get the length that I need for my elastic. So if I go to that, oops, go to it again. My waistband is 26.5. I'm going to split that in half and put the extra half inch on my front because that's what you normally do. And so it's 13 and a half inches for my front circumference. And I'm going to split that in half because I'd like to mirror it since this is also mirrored. So I'm going to create a new rectangle. And that is, let's see, 6.75 because that's half of 13 and a half by a height of 1 inch. So this is going to give me essentially the half of my front waistband, which I'm pretending is elastic right now, and I'm going to mirror that. Let's do that, go a little bit closer. So I'm going to unfold with symmetrical editing. Okay. Now, if I want to just create an elastic casing, what I need to do is sew the top part to my top part of my skirt, top part of elastic to the top part of my skirt, and sew this bottom part of elastic to a new internal line that I have to create that is the same depth, which is 1 inch off of my waistline seam. So I'm going to go into Edit Pattern. I'm going to highlight that line, and I'm going to go Offset as internal line, and I'm going to make that offset 1 inch. Okay, and now I'm going to do a segment sew to sew those pieces together. One thing to remember is that this particular seam here, I've already made it and it's highlighted. I'm going to go over to my property editor right away and click Turned for that top waistband one. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to my segment sew and then segment sew the other part of my elastic, quote unquote, to my segment on my skirt. And I don't need to do turned for that one. Okay, so now the key is we need to place these pieces. And so I'm going to bring my skirt piece off of my avatar so I can see where this is being placed. I'm going to place this, and you can use arrangement points for this to get a little bit closer. Oops. There. And then move your skirt so it's kind of laying on top of it. Okay, make sure that these are sewn together, right? Yep, they're sewn together. Okay, and then we can simulate that to see what happens. You can also highlight this piece. It's in there, and you can superimpose under. And now you can simulate. Okay, so that gives definitely the look of elastic within a casing. If you'd like it to look nicer, obviously, the gathers to look more realistic, you can select the pieces that are showing gathering, and you can change the particle distance to something smaller than 20. Okay, so I didn't do the back, but you can see the front looks nice. Now, if you want to add multi-needle stitching here, like we have here, this one has essentially the top line and then 2 lines of stitching in between. You can go into Edit Pattern to offset distributed internal lines between those segments that you highlighted. So I clicked both my segments between which I'd like to add internal lines. And I'm going to distribute internal lines between segments. And I'm going to put 2 in there. And it doesn't seem to like that, I think because it's mirrored. Let's see if I can do this differently. There we go. Okay, so highlight your lines, distribute internal line between segment, go to 2. Still doesn't seem to be behaving itself. Let's try the other side. This is really funny. Not sure what's going on there. Okay, well, I'm not sure why this is not working, so I'm going to, let's see what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut it. So if this happens to you, do the thing that we usually do, which is separate our pieces. I'm going to distribute my internal lines in this way. Okay, and now I'm going to go back and I'm going to mirror that. So hopefully that will solve our problem. It's always good to figure out solutions when things are being crazy, and I'm going to unfold with symmetrical editing with sewing. There we are. That works out. Perfect. Okay, now we can continue on. Okay, so again, we want to sew each of these segments to each other. Okay, so let's check our sewing because I think some of them should still be there. Yep. And so we just need to sew our internal lines now with our segment sew. I'm going to segment sew this one to this one, and this one to that one. Okay. So let's see the effect this has on our skirt itself. So hopefully everything is still hanging out where it ought to be, and it looks like it might not be, so we can select our piece. We did just make a new piece. We're going to reposition this using our arrangement points. Place our skirt back over top. Oops, get back in there. Or like I said, you could also superimpose under. You can select that, superimpose under, and see what the effect is. So it looks like it's fighting a little bit with the elastic. But that is the effect. You can eventually, this works itself out, you can get the concept of having multiple layers of stitching, and you can augment that or make it even more visible by adding some top stitching to those seams on the outside piece.